A plan is essential to the success of you going full-time. Winging it, I guarantee you, you're going to become discouraged. If you think entrepreneurship is hard, running a household and being a great wife and mother at the same time is even harder. The fear of getting out there is crippling. It's impostor syndrome at its best. You have your God-given talent and skill to be able to get out there and do these things. You have to want it, you have to have the drive for it, and you have to plan for it.
Meet Sabine, the dual CEO of a thriving luxury event planning business. A former corporate executive on the fast track to the C-suite, she made a courageous leap of faith after the pandemic to run her 19-year-old venture full-time. More than just an entrepreneur, Sabine is a community pillar, a devoted wife and mother, and a leader who roots her business in faith, integrity, and empowering others. Her journey is a masterclass in balancing ambition, family, and purpose.
Would you recommend someone take that leap of faith and just go all in on their business, or just hold off a little bit? And what would you say to that?
Entrepreneurship is not pretty. It is one of the hardest things, and I've done a lot of hard things in my life.
Welcome to Jules Legacy Enterprise Productions. This is your home for powerful stories and game-changing insights. This segment, Conversation with a Pioneer, highlights the success stories of North Miami Senior High School pioneers and guests who just might change your life forever. Each episode brings fresh energy and unexpected inspirations. So stay tuned, because you never know who's next to light your path. Today we have with us a wonderful guest who has taken the entrepreneurial spirit to the next level, who has left the working class and has taken the opportunity to invest in herself and her business. She is a wife, a mother, a business owner, an entrepreneur. Need I say more? She is amazing. And today we are here and we are glad to have her here with us. Meet with us Miss Sabine Dulcio.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you guys.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. So Sabine, who is Sabine?
Who is Sabine? Aside from being a mother, a wife, a sister, a best friend, a Christian, a lover of Jesus, I am just someone who loves people, who have a passion for doing amazing things, and who really just allows God to lead my life, and I'll just follow.
It was said that you took a leap of faith, right? You left corporate America. What happened during that time?
So it was a year after the pandemic.
Okay.
I was working for a quasi-government organization. I was on the upward mobility track, next on the C-suite, being groomed for the C-suite. I didn't realize it until a year after I left corporate, but quite honestly, I was just traumatized by everything that was just going on with, we were doing so much in such a tight and confined time frame, from educating kids at home. My son was home. My daughter was home. My daughter was 2 at the time. My son had just started high school when COVID hit. And with the work that we did, it was community driven. So the community was in need. Right. So it was our job to make sure that we made those connections so that the community could have what they needed, because we were kind of like the fiscal responsibility and the connector of all these community organizations. And a year after leaving corporate, I was sitting at home working. And my husband's teams became very popular during COVID. Every business was using the platform Teams to do business because everything was virtual. And his teams went off and I was immediately triggered.
Wow.
And that's when it hit me. In life, when you're someone who is quote unquote strong, you never need support, you never need a break, you never need respite. You don't think that you can be affected by mental health. You think that you're always going to be strong. You're always going to be able to push. And I believe that in our youth, a lot of us, that's our vanity, right? I sat back and I was like, I need to go talk to somebody about this.
Wow.
If I'm being triggered by the sound of platform that I'm going to have to engage in, I do business with corporate companies. I'm going to have to use Teams. It hit me like, I was traumatized because when you're on C-suite or senior director level, it does not stop. It was 24 hours.
Wow.
We were working around the clock, 10, 11, midnight, text messages, Teams coming in. It didn't stop during COVID. And I think that's where it really hit me like, and that's why now when I'm coaching and mentoring companies and individuals, entrepreneurs who come to me, I tell them, that mental health stuff is not a joke. You do need time. You need to schedule on your calendar. My assistant goes in and schedules my days off because if she doesn't, I don't stop, right? And we as entrepreneurs, we do so much, and not just for ourselves, not just for our company, with others who are seeking support, who are seeking to support us.
Right.
We want to be available, but in doing that, we also are hurting ourselves. And that's what, my realization is through that. So that it led me to be grateful for leaving corporate, but it also made me realize that I wasn't operating in my business at the capacity that I could. Because at 9 to 5, I was working and it wasn't even 9 to 5 really, 9 to 7, 9 to 10, 9 to 12, whatever. I was building another organization. Whereas now I'm networking, I'm building my company, I'm scaling differently than I was when I was balancing corporate and entrepreneurship.
So would you say to someone who's looking to probably taking that leap of faith into going all in on their business, the lessons that you've learned, would you recommend someone take that leap of faith and just go all in on their business, or just hold off a little bit? And what would you say to that?
So I would say be prepared. When you have a zest in you and you have a passion in you and you have a drive, a vision, a calling, that zest is there to want to jump all in. I'm a planner, not by profession, but in me.
Right.
So I plan everything, right? One of my biggest lessons when I started my business 19 years ago is there was no plan. I did it out of need, right? And so jumping into this, create a plan. If you're in corporate America, you want to go full on entrepreneurship, create a plan, but within that plan, have a timeline. I'm going to do this in the next year, I will leave my 9 to 5 and do my business 100% of the time and break that plan down. Okay, you have a 12-month time frame, break it into quarters. If your 9 to 5 also funds your business, now you need to plan fiscally. How is that going to happen? Are you going to start having different conversations with lenders? Are you going to apply for grants? Are you going to work with the chamber to help support you in some of the other things that are happening, such as pitches? And then, is this work that you do on your own, or do you need staff? Do you need to put people on 1099s? Create that plan and then have somebody look at your plan. Go into a chamber. If you have other mentors who own businesses, have them look at that plan, because there might be blind spots that you might not see that they can advise you. Start having discussions on what does your day look like as an entrepreneur, because when you're working at 9 to 5, you're getting up, you're getting ready, you're having your coffee, you're on 9 to 5, 826 Turnpike headed to that office to do work. Now as an entrepreneur, what does that look like, right? You have to then be prepared. I always tell people, as an entrepreneur, you still need to wake up and create a schedule for yourself to be productive so that your business moves. If I don't move, my staff don't get paid.
Thanks.
If I don't strategize, my staff don't get paid. If I don't network, my staff don't get paid, right? We're no longer just thinking about us. We're now thinking about this big scale of a business that you want longevity in, right? So a plan is essential to the success of you going full time. Winging it, I guarantee you, you're going to become discouraged. You're going to get roadblocks that hit that you won't understand how to pivot, right? Because you won't have that plan to drive you, right? And a plan does not mean it is just steadfast and not changing. No, yes, a plan evolves. And so that you also have to be ready for, right? You have to be looking at you have goals for the year. You look at them quarterly. Once you get to half the year, you're looking at those goals and preparing for the next year. And all of that is part of deciding if it's the right time to go 100% into entrepreneurship. And if it is the right time, get the work done to put that plan into motion and be ready, because it is going to be a lot of work. Entrepreneurship is not pretty. It is one of the hardest things, and I've done a lot of hard things in my life.
Sabine, you said a lot. It's a lot that was said. So if I understand correctly, you were still working because you said you started your business 19 years ago. So you were managing both at the time. Both
at the same time.
How hard was that?
It was hard. It was hard because there was a point in my career where my coworkers didn't even know I had a business. I deliberately did not tell my coworkers I had a business because depending on the type of 9-to-5 you're a part of, you don't want people, that was my perception. It could have been a wrong perception as well, but I didn't want people to feel that because I ran a business that I would not be effective at my 9-to-5. I am a very goal-oriented type of person. I have reached success very early in my life in multiple avenues. I tell people this is my 4th round of careers.
Wow.
As entrepreneurship. And I did not want that type of stigma to kind of float around me like, oh, she has a business, she's not going to be attentive to what it is she's doing in 9-to-5. So I deliberately did not tell my coworkers, my superiors that I had a business. It wasn't until 2018, it already been 10 years, we were up for re-election and I had a large following, and it came to light that I had the large following because I was posting for people to go out and vote for us for our referendum, and that's when it came to light.
Wow.
But I was very, very purposeful in ensuring that, I got my fair shake, because quite honestly, I did not think I was going to go 100% into, I did not want at the time to go 100% into entrepreneurship. It was done out of necessity, as I mentioned. My goal was C-suite, and I was working towards C-suite.
Sabine, I was reading an article, right? Mm-hmm. And it says that during COVID, a lot of people became entrepreneurs. They took that leap of faith. Mm-hmm. And now a lot of them are going back to the 9-to-5. Mm-hmm. What do you think happened?
Lack of planning. So during COVID, a lot of things shut down. Right? Okay. So entrepreneurship became a natural path for people. They needed necessity. They needed financials to be coming in and continually flowing through their home. Not only that, if you remember, there was an influx of federal funds and state funds that were coming into the ecosystem for entrepreneurs to take advantage of. So people saw what I like to call the diamond effect, the bling, and they're like, oh, I could become an entrepreneur. I said, okay, you want to become an entrepreneur, but what is the plan? What are you going to do when these federal funds stop and you have to create revenue through this actual business, right? And then the revenue that is coming in, how are you making it flow through the business so that you have longevity, so that you can scale? Due to lack of planning, a lot of people are going back into the workforce, and that's okay, right? Because we have options, we pivot, and there are people too who are creating new businesses, because those businesses may have been triggered by the pandemic and are no longer needed in the way they were being done, and so you have to kind of shift a bit. But you always have to plan for the worst in order to be prepared. Even in my industry, there are major downtimes in our industry.
Wow.
COVID, believe it or not, was peak time for parties. Peak time. We were doing parties 3-4 times a week.
Wow.
Right? Because the money was available on the client side, and so it created demand, right, on our side.
Of course.
And now that the money has dried up on the client side, there's no longer all this free money coming in to the ecosystem for the clients, people who are really having the parties are those who have either saved for the parties, people who are doing large scale weddings and are, have the fiscal opportunity to do so. And so the opportunities to do as many events aren't there, which is why I always urge people who are in the party space, you always have to think about the niche that you're in and how you're going to diversify. One type of clientele is not going to keep you in business in the long run. And that's with every type of business. You have your client that you serve, but within that client base, you might have multiple opportunities, multiple avenues to reach different types of clientele.
A lot of people don't really take into account how hard it is, right? The idea could be great.
Yeah.
You could have a great idea for this business. That doesn't mean that the business is not going to be successful. It's a great idea. But your idea also need management. A lot of people don't understand it. They're not great at management. And sometimes it's actually best to say, hey, all right, I'm not good at this, but I'm going to hire someone who's great at it to actually push that idea forward. You mentioned about your faith. At the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned Jesus Christ a few times. In your perception, how hard it is to serve Christ, especially in this era?
I think you have to be intentional. My perception is everything that I do in my life is to glorify God.
Okay.
Every gift that I have is done to glorify Him, because I would not have these gifts had not been for Him. And so I tell people my business is a Christian-based business. It's rooted in my faith. It's rooted in my Christianity. And so I do business a certain way. I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. Doesn't mean you're going to get your way with me, but it does mean I'm going to do fair business with you. We might not share the same faith, but I'm always going to treat you as and do business with you in what I perceive to be a Christ-minded business. Because if I'm at the gates today and God says, hey, He pulls out one of my contracts,
right?
And he's like, "Hey, your contract with such and such, I'm gonna stand there with my head held high and say, yes, I did great business, Christ-like business with this person. No, I did not undercut them. No, I did not steal from them. No, I was not rude and because and even in our space, you deal with personalities. And I tell people in our event space, your personality, your connection will determine your next client, your next business, because referral is huge and word of mouth about you is huge. Your character is huge. You can't have a face here and then another face there. You have to be the same person.
You have to be consistent.
You have to be you're right. And so a lot of people will come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're actually very nice." I was like, "Thanks." I'm me. I consider myself to be a good person. If there's something I can do for you, I'm going to do it. My best friend Katie recently told me, I forgot what it was. It was a group of us who were discussing it. She was like, "Well, Sabine's a giver, so we can't put her out there." And it's true. I am a giver. Right. And in giving, in recognizing that I am a giver, in business, I have to pay attention to that, because that is my love language per se, right? And it's one that I'm very proud of. But in business, I also have to be careful with that, because being a giver, being a Christian, you always want to avail yourself. You always want to avail what it is that you have, but I also have to make a profit.
Of course.
Right? And so I always tell people, if there's something I can do for you, I'm going to do it. Have the conversation with me, but I'm also going to have the conversation with you, because market prices are what they are.
Right.
Right? And I'm not in business to fail. I'm not in business to go bankrupt. I like lavish things. I like to shop. My husband says it's a problem, but here we are. And so I do business that's equitable.
Right.
I do business that I'm proud of, that I can say Christ will be proud of. And it's even rooted in our mission and our vision, right?
Sabine, are you good at what you do?
I'm great at what I do.
When did you realize that?
I realized I was great at what I would say 11 years ago. And 11 years ago, I was planning to close my business. Literally. I was having a culminating event to close my business. Hindsight, if it was today, I would be selling my business. Valuation is a lot more than what it was then. But my wedding was supposed to be my culminating event.
Wow.
Because remember, I told you I was planning for C-suite. And so the plan was I was going to get married, have more children, and be groomed for C-suite. C-suite. That was my plan. And so my wedding was supposed to be the culminating event that closed my business. It catapulted my business into the luxury network.
Wow.
And it was featured in magazines, all these interviews about it. And ever since then, we've been a luxury style. And I realized then that, not that I was playing small, but I was playing safe, right? And in playing it safe, I wasn't able to truly let people see the creativity that God had placed in me. And since then, not saying any events before then weren't great, but since then we have done some amazing, amazing things, have produced in some places I would have never thought I would go to produce events, had conversation and been placed in rooms that only God, And so when I say I'm great, it's not boasting.
Of course.
I always tell people, if I don't believe I'm great, how are you going to believe I'm great?
Facts.
You know what I mean?
True.
And while we're still humble, as we should be, but yeah, I'm great. And and the value that I receive out of that should also be great.
I would like to ask, because you did mention motherhood, you mentioned that you got married while being a wife, and you were working, not technically 9 to 5, but more so like 9 to 7, 9 to 12. Mm-hmm. How was that time frame, balancing that and being a wife?
It is, if you think entrepreneurship is hard, running a household and being a great wife and mother at the same time is even harder. They have what's called mom guilt and wife guilt, right? And I thank God every day for my husband, because without him, there is absolutely no way I could be as successful as I am in business. None whatsoever. My husband, before I had a team, was my team. Right? He tell people now, I don't got to pick up a box. But he was my team before I had a team. Okay. I needed somebody there helping me set up. If I'm setting up, we have a pretty large property, so we converted a lot of it. He always jokes people that I took over his garage and turned it into my warehouse. Mm-hmm. But if it wasn't for him, I would not be as successful as I am. And it's little things from having to make dinner every day, or worrying about laundry, or like worrying I'm not giving him enough attention, or being at PTA events for my kids. I had made a promise to myself when I went full on entrepreneurship. I said that I would not do to my daughter what I did to my son. My son had been an athlete. He's no longer an athlete. He was an athlete all of his life until he started college. And I could count on one hand how many games I had been to for my son. And that's how much I was working. And I said, nope. I said, if I'm going to do entrepreneurship, I have to do better. And he'll tell you, he was like, oh, it was fine because daddy was always there. My husband was always the coach. My husband was always at every single thing. I did all the homework, but everything else, like, my husband was always there, right? And we had a running joke that my son was a motherless child. People would think my husband was a single dad because they would never see me because on the weekends I would be producing events.
Wow.
But he is, and still to this day, amazing husband, amazing provider, amazing human being all around. And if it wasn't for him being by my side, no idea how I would have been able to do it. Him and we have an amazing village. We're middle school sweethearts.
Oh,
my
okay.
husband and I.
Middle school sweetheart.
Middle school sweetheart. No Miami Middle, right behind them bleachers. We was kissing.
Oh,
don't tell the folks. We've been together for a very long time, so we understand each other very well. Does not mean we don't have communication breakdowns sometimes. Does not mean we don't always have to regroup to get on the same page. But one thing that we do well is we communicate often and well, because especially with my schedule, I'm always somewhere. I always have something going on. While his schedule is a little bit more steadfast and day to day what he has, me, I'm the crazy one between the two of us. If you can't tell, he's the more calm and steady.
Right, but you need that.
You need that, right? That's
Right.
balance.
Right.
So if it wasn't for me having a great husband, I would not be as successful as I am.
what would you define as a great husband?
A great husband is a man who, one, I have a strong personality. He has to be a leader, but in leading, he has to understand how to lead the person it is that he's with. For me, he leads by faith because he's a follower of Christ. He also supports me in whatever it is that he doesn't add undue burden to me as his partner. He gives me opportunities to be me. He knows I'm crazy and he loves it. Thank you, Jesus.
Right.
He is attentive to my needs. Prime example that I last night, I was leaving to go and what was I leaving to do last night? Oh, I was leaving to go do a mock setup for an upcoming wedding, and finished everything, went to get ready, came back, he loaded everything for me, and he's like, oh, I'm thinking about making salads for dinner. I was like, yeah, that's great. He's like, all right, cool, but what meat are you gonna eat in it? I was like, oh, I'll just eat the popcorn chicken. He's like, no, I suffer from hypertension. She's like, no, you're hypertension. I was like, no, I'll be okay. He was like, nah. He was like, I saw you have some chicken breasts in the fridge. I was like, oh yeah. So I proceed to tell him how to marinate the chicken breasts. Leave, do the mock setup, success, come back home, salad is ready.
Wow.
He put the chicken breast in the air fryer and he only put epice on it.
Wow.
Not an ounce of seasoned salt or anything else. I was like, babe, we have seasoning. He's like, nah, you're hypertension. I was like, no, that's why the sodium that we use, it's low sodium, so I'm okay with it. He's like, nah, you don't eat this chicken like this. I was like, all right, cool, you made it. That's the only reason I'm gonna eat it, but I'm gonna need you to add a little bit more seasoning.
Of course.
But those are the little things for me that says you love me enough to care about what's happening to me, right? To do things that I may not necessarily want or like, but are to my benefit, right? We pray together, we pray individually, we pray as a couple, and we pray as a family. That's very important to me. He's a provider, and my husband's a professor, but he's a professor at 4 different colleges and universities.
Wow.
So I call him my sugar daddy. While I manage the household financially, and of course support the household through my business, essentially my husband is the breadwinner. And it wasn't always like that. There was a period in our life when I was the breadwinner.
Right.
But for me, my husband will and has always been the head of our household, regardless financially what that looks like, because I know potentially what my husband is. And definitely he's shown me that over the years. He's caring, he's affectionate, he's an amazing father, and not just to our kids. He mentors so many other children in the community because he has a heart for families. He has a heart for people. So for me, that's what a great husband is. He's been a prime example. And I come from a broken household. And I told him, I said, if I was leaning on the household that I came from as a vision of what marriage would be, our marriage would not be an example to so many others. And he has continually been a pillar for a Christ-led family, a Christ-led husband. He's my friend. You know, before he's my husband and my lover, he's my friend. Like, we kiki all day, laughing and having a good time and talking about politics, all types of stuff. Because truly I trust him, and I trust him to do well by me and for our children.
So with that said, what makes a good wife?
What makes a good wife is also being attentive to your partner and the person that you're with, what their needs are, being caring, being loving. Us as wives, we are quote unquote naturally looked at as being the givers in the relationship. We are the helpmate by God's definition, right? But what does that mean to be a helpmate? I'm going to take what you bring me and I'm going to multiply it. Right? May that be $1 or may that be a chicken.
Right.
I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to help you envision and help bring forward your vision, right? Because you bring the vision and I ensure that we execute that vision through whatever it is that needs to happen within our household. I'm going to make sure that you are loved and know that you are loved. If children is what we want, then we're going to ensure that that happens as part of our vision. I'm going to continually ensure that Christ is the center of everything it is that we do. And even when, and remember I told you we're middle school sweethearts, there were times, I don't know if you guys know Fidel, the restaurant that's up the street on West BC right here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there was a point where Fidel was on Biscayne and 76, and they had an actual sit-down restaurant.
Really?
Very nice, yeah. Before gentrification occurred. And we were college students, and Fidel used to have a $5 lunch. And that was our lunch dates. We would save our little $6.75.
Right.
And we would go on our lunch dates, right? Now, some might say $6. They might take me on a date for $6 to split a plate of Haitian food.
Of course.
Right? But again, you have to understand the person that's in front of you. You have to have the conversations about, what do our future look like together? What do I want for my future, and how are you going to support that, and vice versa? And for me, in a husband and a wife, that's very, very important. I'm telling my son now, I said, I'm praying for your wife now, because the success that I'm praying for you, the type of woman that has to be next to you needs to be able to support that and catapult that and not be just a receiver of that, right? As a wife, I believe that we can't just be receivers. We have to be able to multiply. And that doesn't mean you have to be in the workforce to multiply. No, you have to be able to take that, what is given to you, and look at other avenues of supporting that man, and ensuring that. And I tell my husband all the time, are you stressed? You balancing like a lot of, he was like, nah. And I had to express to him, I said, stress isn't something that you may necessarily always identify. It comes through what you look like, right? It might come through as weight gain. It might come through as lack of sleep. It might come through in other ways. And me as your wife, I have to pay attention to that, because I'm the person who knows you the best.
Right.
I was like, hey, you're not sleeping, or hey, you've gained more weight than usual. Why don't we start walking? every day at 6:30 before your class starts. Let's do a 30-minute walk. Or he takes our daughter to school. Or I'll start taking Sierra to school in the morning, and that way you can hit the gym before you have to go into the office.
Right.
That's love. That's being an attentive wife, because I want you. I always joke with him. I'm like, you got to outlive me, because who's going to take care of me? Right. I want you to live a long life. I want you to live a long, healthy life, right?
Right.
Wanting what's best for your husband is being a great wife, right? And also identifying things and areas of improvement. I can't be a yes man. I won't be your yes man. And I don't want you to be my yes man. I want you to always want me to be improving. I want you to want me to be the best version of me that can be placed out there. So if it is something that's going to improve me, if it's something that's going to improve you, we're going to have a conversation about it.
Sabine, we've been talking about marriage, and you planned your wedding, right?
I did. I don't advise it, but I did.
From a bride's perspective, can you walk us through that day? Because I know it's a lot that goes on a wedding, and then as a bride standing there with so much going on.
I always tell people, hire a planner. You don't need that kind of stress in your life. If you can, hire a planner. That's my first thing that I say. But if you must plan your own wedding, be organized. Be as organized. If everything is chaotic around you, because if there's one thing that's going to bring you stress, it's planning a wedding, because you're going to have so many balls in the air.
Of course.
And you're juggling so much. Without being organized, a couple of them balls going to drop.
Of course.
Right? And that's just going to create more stress and more chaos around you. Whatever way it is you get organized, may be writing things down and having a notebook. You can order a bride's planner, a wedding planner. If it means using Slack, if you guys know what Slack is, it's an online system that allows you to kind of organize your day and assign tasks to people. We're in a new age now, so a lot of brides are using things like that to support their day. If it is having an assistant, like someone, a cousin, a friend, someone who's going to hold you accountable to doing what you said you're going to do, have an assistant, right? A helper. And start with your venue. Venue is the most important part. Without a venue, you don't have a wedding date, right? You get proposed to first. I have a lot of people that come to me and they don't even have the ring yet.
Right.
Get proposed to first. Scout venues. See what you like, what you don't like. Think about the rain. Please think about the rain for us as vendors. Think about summer season. Do not get married in the summer. Don't get married in the summer because it is heavy rain season. And a lot of our summer brides like outdoor weddings.
Wow.
Yeah. So it creates a little bit of a conundrum for us, a huge conundrum. But think about those things. Like if it does rain, if you do want to execute an outdoor wedding and there is a huge possibility of rain, is there an indoor option if it happens? Are you going to pay the $5,000 for a tent to come in? Yeah, usually by that time, you're financially exhausted. That's one thing that happens at the end of wedding planning. You're financially exhausted,
right?
Because weddings cost a lot of money,
right?
And then once you have your venue and you kind of thought through some of the logistics, things that are needed in the venue, is there enough space for all the things that you want to happen, from bar to photo booth to cocktail hour to any performances on the dance floor, a stage that's big enough so you don't fall off when you're getting off. Start your next big budget item are food, if it doesn't come with your venue. Then it's design, full design, not just one chair, like your whole design budget. And then it's your florist and your photographer. But before you even do all of that, create a budget.
Right.
The budget kind of guides you. And some people will tell you, well, I don't know. Or Google told me. Google's a lie. Google you a lie. Okay? I had a friend of mine call me last night and say, Sabine, I need you to be the tiebreaker in a conversation I'm having with my husband. I said, okay, what is it? How much does a baby shower cost these days? I said, you could get away with $20,000 on a baby shower. And I hear her husband in the back, I need a second job. Google told me 12,000. And so don't solely rely on Google, because our Miami and South Florida market is
way different.
Way different. We have people who come from New York, who come from LA, and they're like, oh, you guys are different down here in South Florida. So do not rely on Google. Create a healthy budget. But again, it is your budget, right? So the next thing you're going to have to do is find vendors that can work within your budget. Every vendor is not for everyone, and that is okay. It is okay. But understand, your vision and your budget has to match.
Sabine, your most recent work broke the internet.
Yes, it did.
People were speaking about it for days. It went viral on every platform that you could think of. And it's being replicated
as
everywhere.
We speak.
A beautiful masterpiece.
Thank
from
you.
The floral, from the decorations, the way it was put together.
Thank you.
Epic.
Thank you.
Walk us through that process.
It is a labor of love. When you're producing an event for 800 people, we had one goal: to create the Haitian Oscars.
Nice.
That was our goal. And I think we achieved that goal. But in achieving that goal, again, it's a lot of things and people and companies that come together. Shout out to my boy Oyol of Italia Media, Legacy Media. That was my partner in crime. They do a phenomenal job when it comes to the media and production aspect,
of course,
for events. And so that big, beautiful LED stage that you saw with all the sounds and the crane on the camera capturing, wow. I mean, just phenomenal work. But that took a lot of planning. We did weekly meetings with a team of about 25 people to execute that, and a lot of negotiations with the venue.
Of course.
Because we knew what, our expectations were and what we were going to bring in. It took a lot of negotiations with the venue to ensure that we would have the time. So that's one of the things people don't tell you about event production. There are some productions that require 2, 3, 4 days to produce, because if one of the aspects of production don't happen when it needs to happen, it slows down the entire production, which then affects your start time. And we never want our start time to be affected so that the guests aren't affected. And so it took a lot of planning, bringing people together, negotiating just different contracts. And also even sometimes you have to, again, working within budgets, have to think about how do you do something amazing on a creative budget? And that happens at times, right? But as a creative, we tell people what we can do and we can't do. We can't, only Jesus could walk on water.
Right.
And so it's up to us. One of the biggest parts of being an event planner, event producer, or even someone who provides a service is educating your client, because people really just don't know. And as part of doing good business, you have to educate people. Like, this is what this costs. If this is what you want, this is what it costs. Now, we could do an alternative and do this, and this is what it's going to cost, but it's not going to be this, right? And as part of educating people, it's not belittling their expectation. It's truly laying out the foundation of, this is what it is, this is what can or can't be done based on what we're expecting. December 7th, shameless plug, we have the Dangerous Seduction movie coming out at the Fillmore Miami Beach. This will be the first Haitian American film to be viewed at a platform like the Fillmore. And so some of the things that we're doing are unprecedented in our community. And so we're urging everyone to come out, come see. You've already seen one amazing,
of course,
Haitian Oscars. Well, let's take you on the next ride and come out and see The Dangerous Seduction and see what type of theatrics. And when we did the press screening 3 weeks ago, they were blown away by the quality. Like, you were sitting there watching one of the best, you know, shout out to Dalex. He's the director of the film. When I tell you amazing, you guys are going to be blown away, right? And so some of the things that we're doing at the Fillmore, people are going to walk in and be like, the Zoes did this?
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we have even more coming. Wait around for it.
Haters qualified to go to the
Hey! FIFA's going to see us coming, baby.
We're in there.
We in there.
So you're a mother. You're a wife. You're a business owner. You're a director of S. Dulcio's Design. Member of Haitian American Chambers of Commerce, right? So you have all these hats that you're wearing. What remarks can you give to someone that's watching now that have the same drive, that have the desires that you have, but haven't taken those steps? What would you like to say to them?
I would say the fear of getting out there is crippling. It's impostor syndrome at its best. We all think that who am I to aspire for these things, or who am I to think that you're you have your God-given right, your God-given talent and skill to be able to get out there and do these things. You just have to want it, you have to have the drive for it, and you have to plan for it. I would not be in the corporate space that I'm in if I hadn't planned for it. I would not be sitting on the boards that I sit on if they weren't part of my goals. You know, being a great mother is important. My daughter makes the principal's honor roll every semester.
Oh.
Why? Because I'm there making sure the homework is done. I'm talking to the teachers. I have the tutors going. Everything that we want to do in our life, everything that we want to be great at, it's not just going to happen if we're sitting back lackadaisy. We have to put the work, we have to put the effort, and we have to take care of ourselves enough to be ready. And I always tell people, readiness is key.
Of course.
I can't want to be a FIFA vendor if I don't have my insurance on deck, if I don't have my incorporation in the state of Florida system
established,
if I don't have my CRM ready to get a contract out. You understand? So everything that you want, set the goal for yourself. And in setting that goal, what are the strategies to achieve that goal, right? In everything that I have learned in my life, with all the mentors that I've had, with being in corporate America, goal setting is not just for the workplace. Goal setting is for life success. Anything and everything that you want, it's at your fingertips as long as you're willing to work for it. That's what I would say.
What does it mean to be a pioneer to you?
Hey, that's 2001, where you at, baby? Listen, Haiti birthed me, North Miami raised me, baby. Okay? I love North Miami. And to be a pioneer is a huge, huge, huge part of that. Yeah, green and gold, green and gray, baby.
Yeah,
right through and through. Okay? I'm just proud to be a pioneer, raised right here in North Miami, giving back to the community that is here, giving back to the school. It's a point of pride because there was a point, as we all know, where Haitians just weren't accepted. We weren't it, right? To us, we were always it to us.
Of course.
You know, in our own cultures, in our own churches, in our own schools, we were it. But to the outside, we weren't. Now they up on game.
Yep.
Now they know what we bring to the table. Now they know how hardworking we are. Now they know how resilient we are as a people. Now they know that everything we touch is success, maybe good or bad, you know, not Miami. But Haitian people are amazing. And our school, North Miami Senior High, has bred some of the greatest. And there are people that are front facing, there are people that are behind the scenes. And we have some amazing policymakers behind the scenes doing some amazing things that come out of North Miami. I tell people that all the time because I don't want to say we went through it, but we did. We went through it as a culture. You know, it was a sink or swim. You growing up in a Haitian household, you sink. You're not sinking. You gotta swim. You gotta swim. It's not an option. And so, amazing teachers, amazing administrators. All of my best friends are from North Miami.
That's dope.
To this day.
That's dope.
You know, are from North Miami, and so I met some of the most amazing people right here in North Miami, which is why, you know, this is where we reside. This is where we do a lot of business, and we're gonna continue supporting North Miami.
You remember how we met?
Oh, that house I built.
So what is the plans for this year's picnic?
So right now our goal is we have ticket sales going. So we're urged class of 2001 to go on our website and purchase your tickets. That is our primary goal right now, is to get ticket sales going, because based on ticket sales is going to drive what we do.
Right.
So we just want to have something that's going to be fun like it was last year, that's going to make a statement, and that's going to have impact. So that's our underlying goal. Really, just to make it great for our classmates and enjoy everyone else that's going to be there. Will is doing something amazing for the community. I wish more people. Last year we had 3,000 people. I hope this year it's 6,000, because it's such a great outing.
Wow. So what's next for you personally and for business?
What's next for me personally? Got a few vacations coming up. They say I need it. So February, we're out of commission because I'll be gone most of February. That's it right now. Personally, I'm thinking about going to get another degree. So that might happen. I don't know yet. And business-wise, I am just working, making more corporate connections. That's our goal. That was our 5-year goal that we set. And so making as many corporate connections that we can to elevate the corporate planning side of the business. So yeah, that's it. And just enjoying my life and my family along the way and my friends.
For education, you were a pre-med major at first.
How'd you know that?
Resources say you was a pre-med major.
I was at FAU. I love FAU, but shout out to FIU because that's where I graduated. And I was a pre-med major. My parents told me I was going to be a doctor. So pre-med, here I come. I was an excellent student. I've always been an excellent student. So I was like, yeah, I can become a doctor. Ain't no problem. Until I realized I hated the hospital.
Yes.
Went into the hospital
Same here.
for, I forgot when I went into the hospital. To volunteer. It was part of the program that we were in. And I was like, oh no, this is not for me. So I became a psychology major.
Okay.
And then from there, went on to get my health service administration degree, which I told everybody, I want to do the business side of health. And so for a while, I was the director over all of the school-based health programs in Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
But I'm a chameleon. My husband always says that. I'm good at everything I touch by God's grace.
You're Haitian.
So, yes. So this is my 4th iteration of a career, my business, my entrepreneurship.
Which degree would you think about going for?
I'm thinking about something in marketing and AI.
Okay.
Not that AI intrigues me, but just because I'm seeing what's coming. AI is ever evolving, and what it was a year ago is not what it is today, and what it is today, it won't be a year from now. But I think with a baseline in AI and continued engagement in AI is going to do some phenomenal things. And for marketing, as an entrepreneur, you always need marketing. And I want a deeper understanding of it. And so I figure, why not go get another master's or something? Have some fun there, pick up some student loans along the way. So that's what I was thinking about for another career. My husband wants me to do a doctorate degree, but I'm like, I left that for you, Dr. Dulcio. So I don't know. It'll be something along the way. I'm thinking about retirement. When I sell the business, I end up in someone's university teaching something.
Sell the business?
Yeah, okay. I would. Eventually. Probably, most likely, in another 20 years or so.
20 years or so?
Yeah. And end up just as a professor somewhere and doing community engagement, sitting on boards and things like that. That's my retirement plan for now. But hey, God always has another plan for me.
Sabine, would you say that you made the right choice? Or do you feel fulfilled that you didn't stay in corporate America or try to push for the next level and you feel more content where you at now?
There are days I feel like that. Overall, I feel like I made the right decision.
Okay.
But there are days I'm like, I question if it was the right decision, because as an entrepreneur, we all know when we're in corporate America, on every 14 days, that check is going to come.
Facts.
Right? As an entrepreneur, if you don't hustle,
if you don't go get it, it's not going to come. Right? And you don't have the opportunity to say, well, I'm too tired to go and get it. And there are periods where it's like, did I make the right decision? And then you sit and you reflect and you think about what you're accomplishing, what legacy you're leaving behind. And I say, job well done, Sabine. Nice.
Job well done.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
I hope others will say that about me.
And at this time, we would like to thank all of our sponsors: AZ Formal Wear, Chick-fil-A of Miami Shores, Comprehensive Health Center, Gourmet Gatherings by Chef Princess E, Stardust Studios, and definitely to you, all of our viewers and listeners, for tuning in. Thank you. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Till next time. And thank you, Sabine, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And